Robocop Rogue City is a loving homage with a low budget that knows exactly what it should be. You are Alex Murphy, anti-nuke enthusiast and robotic policeman. Along with your partner Lewis, you're looking to clean the streets of Detroit from slime balls and scum. Over the course of a dozen or so hours, you'll shoot off dicks, throw perps 50 feet, and have a damned good time doing it. There are issues, of course. The writing's pretty rough when it tries to be serious, and sometimes it looks like a weird asset flip Russian game from 2004, but overall, it's a pretty good time, so let's get into it in the XboxEra review of Robocop Rogue City. Rogue City takes place after Robocop 2, widely avoiding the dreck that was the third movie's plot. Murphy is remembering his family glitching out, and you get to choose if he's a real boy or not. Rogue City is a RPG-light first-person shooter, where you begin living the day-to-day murder-thon that is Robo Murphy's norm. The game has the likeness and voice of Peter Weller, which helps sell it a ton. Lewis, on the other hand, kinda looks like a Nancy Allen bot, along with a few other of the movie's cast. They're like the porn parody version, with odd character models who sit firmly in the "these belong in a weird German simulator" category. Robocop's model has had the most love put into it by far. Weller's signature lips and chin are sculpted perfectly, with high-quality textures that are matched on every other part of Robocop's suit. The plot of the game's fine. It doesn't really get in the way, nor does it get as silly as the third movie. OCP, aka Omni Consumer Products, continue to be dinks, and there are a lot of gangs running rampant in near future of 1987 Detroit. Nuke, the drug from the second movie, is everywhere, and you'll use your Auto 9 pistol to make mincemeat out of thousands of slime balls. The game's main focus is on blasting the shit out of every perp you come across. Robocop has unlimited Auto 9 pistol ammo and can swap between burst fire and full auto. Aiming on controllers a tad slow by default, so I'd recommend upping the X-axis a few notches and the Y at least a notch or two. You can carry a second powerful weapon, which vary from other pistols to shotguns, assault rifles, and more. Secondary weapons have limited ammo, which can be found after killing enemies or just hanging around the environment. Aiming does feel pretty damn perfect on PC using a mouse, though it is very sensitive to start. And it does make the game far easier, as headshots tend to one-shot most unarmored enemies. Gore is king, and carries what is otherwise rudimentary combat with predictably stiff and slow movement. You're Robocop. Heads explode, arms and legs go flying, and blood paints every surface as you destroy your enemies to achieve justice. Right bumper is a big old power punch, and as you level up, you'll unlock the ability to dash forward, which will send enemies flying. There's also a shockwave that feels underpowered pretty much the entire time, and I barely ever used it. And upgrades are tied to an experience system. XP being earned by completing objectives, finding evidence of crimes in the world, or through picking up OCP training manuals, which instantly earn you an entire skill point. Outside of murder every mother effer around, quests tend to be fetching items from one place and bringing them to another, or scanning things in the environment. It's video game quest objective 101 with nothing new to be seen. The game is carried by its love of the source material, though it does lose the more satirical nature of the first film due to its clunky writing. It tries to lampoon American culture in the same way, but it either falls flat or feels forced more often than not. On Series X, the game looks okay in quality mode, though it's not a smooth 30, because while the frame rate's not dropping, the motion blur used isn't great at blending the image, and so it can feel stuttery. I played on performance mode, which is a mostly solid and a bit fuzzy 60 frames per second. There are certain areas in some bigger fights which did see the frame rate tank, but I'd say like 99% of my playtime felt locked or close to the target. On PC, the game looks and runs as good as your hardware will allow. Running on a 5800X and 7900 XTX rig, I could push 4K and 120 FPS with little concern at max settings. Reflections are not ray traced on console, though a use of what appears to be screen space reflections that fall back to cube maps when objects are out of the line of sight of the camera look fantastic. It's a similar situation to what The Division does, and unless you're really looking for it, you don't notice the large dips in image quality when the switch occurs. Robocop's model is by far the best looking one in the game, with most NPCs, objects, and the elements that fill them up looking decidedly mediocre quite often. Rogue City isn't a bad looking game, but it's filled with enough cheap looking elements that it's jarringly cheap looking at times. I'd say for the budget, the voice acting's decent, trying to carry mostly mediocre writing and succeeding occasionally. Murphy and Lewis get the bulk of the voice work, and while Robocop fits the part perfectly because he is the same guy, the Lewis imitator doesn't really sound like Nancy Allen to me, the original actress. They don't do a bad job, it just pulled me out of this being a Robocop game when the character model and the voice of the second main character were just off. And the music doesn't kick in often, but when it does, it's awesome, pulling you right into the best parts of the original films. And I didn't run into any major bugs in my 12 plus hours with the game, only a few minor graphical hitches. Wrapping things up, Robocop Rogue City is a 7, but it's a really fun 7. It knows that, and it sticks to it no matter what. The writing's not the best, and some of the characters look straight out of a $3 Steam simulator title, but still, I had a ton of fun beating this one over the course of a day and a half, so if you love the series, it is well worth checking out.